good to be back here. This room is beautiful. It's like an executive room. So kind of a lot of pressure to say something smart. It's also cool that there's a lot of newcomers in here. That's awesome. This is a big room for Saved and Sober. Yeah, I'm just here to share my experience, strength, and hope. My recovery date is 11/12/21, so I just celebrated 4 years.
My God. There we go.
It seems like a long time, definitely. Just ask how you did it, just one day at a time. But I'll kind of just get into my story. I'll share some kind of what it was like and how I got sober and what I'm doing now to stay sober. So my journey started really young. I was raised. My dad was in my life till I was probably 7 or 8, and he was kind of in and out. He'll come back into the picture later, but my mom pretty much raised me and my brother for the most part. I started experimenting young. When I was going into 7th grade, started kind of experimenting just with weed or marijuana, whatever you want to call it, and drinking. So it wasn't in cigarettes. That was kind of it was, to me back then, that was cool. So I started doing that, and then I moved into high school. In high school, it was kind of just doing a lot of the same, getting into more trouble, getting a little more serious, doing heavier drugs in high school, like ecstasy, cocaine, stuff like that. Started selling drugs in that time, and in that time I got in trouble. So every time I'd get in trouble, I'd be able to stay sober for a little bit to kind of go through court and figure all that stuff out, right? So that was I was my sophomore year where I got in trouble. Got caught. So I started, my brother was going to church at the time, so every time I would go to get in trouble, I'd come back to church. That's when I met Rachel. That would come back into play a lot later too. So I met Rachel actually at First Church. My brother was going to church. Him and Ryan Caputo, he's the pastor in Oakland. So then I was coming to church, and I would come to church and kind of pray, like, God, don't let me go to juvenile hall. If you take care of me this time, I won't do anything wrong. And then every time I'd get off of probation, I'd go back to doing exactly what I was doing with my friends. So that kind of cycle continued until where I was 17, my senior year, got in trouble again. And then at that time, my mom was kind of fed up with me. She's like, you gotta go. And at that time, my brother was moving to Elk Grove. So I went with my brother and Ryan. We moved out to Elk Grove. That's when I started going to church in Elk Grove at the Rock Church. And there actually, that was kind of like my first connection with God, really, where I was old enough to realize, hey, I need to be saved. So I got the Holy Ghost. I was already gotten baptized when I was a little younger. But then as soon as I was done again with that case, fell into the same cycle. And this is kind of when my addiction elevated, right? So I came back home. Somehow I convinced my brother to buy me a new car, so I had a car payment. 17, brand new car, no money. My mom was like, you can't come back here. So I was living with friends. And we did whatever we had. I was back in the same cycle of selling drugs. Costantino's used to be up the hill. I don't know if anyone remembers Costantino. We'd go in there, grab all their alcohol. Instead of drinking it, we'd go sell it to the liquor store and then use that to do whatever we had to do. So we got really good at making money and doing different things. But my addiction kind of spiraled. So I always had different opportunities to use drugs because my dad comes back into the picture where his family, a lot of them are drug addicts. So I had a lot of different connections to easy access, right? So from there, I was able to, not able to, but I started experimenting with other stuff. They introduced me to prescription drugs like Vicodin and stuff like that. So my addiction spiraled from just kind of I guess you would call it cool drugs, but I don't know if there's cool drugs now. I wouldn't call it that cool drugs, but you tell people you smoke weed, you drink, you do ecstasy, coke, it's not a big deal. For me, it wasn't at the time. But there's those other drugs like heroin and crystal meth and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, those got a bad, you're a crack, they got bad stigmas to them, right? And I'm like, that's never gonna be me. And I would sell those drugs, but I never did them. So I'm like, I knew what they were, I had access to them, but I would never do them. So I'm back in San Jose now. We're doing that, and somewhere along the line, I meet Rachel, but I'm going through different things, and me and Rachel met when she wasn't going to church. We met at a nightclub, and so that was, and I wasn't super bad. Like I was doing opiates. I was in my addiction. I didn't think I was bad. I didn't know I had an addiction. And then we meet, we start dating. That goes pretty quick. We get married pretty quick. We have a son pretty quick. And at the whole time, I've been able to hide my addiction. So I didn't. She knew I partied, but she didn't know like to what extent I did. I told her all the like sweet things she wanted to hear, like I want to go to church, I want to do this. So I kind of started coming back to church with her. She was just on a little hiatus, right? Her whole plan was to come back to church, live for God. So when we came back, she was super serious. I would pop in and out. Some people here will probably see me come through. Whenever I got caught with a pipe or something, like I'd come back into church with Rachel and behave. But my addiction went from experimenting with opiates, like from Vicodin, to getting a little stronger with Narcos, to doing, before they changed over from, I'm getting in the weeds and I don't think I needed to, so I started doing like Oxycontin and stuff like that. And that got really bad, and I'm like, man, there's the things that go on. I don't want to get too graphic where some stuff you can't do with your body, so I'm like Googling stuff, like how do I help with this and do that? And like in my head, I didn't have a clear head, right? So I said, oh, why don't you try crystal meth? So I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, right? Like, let me try that to get off of this, and I can just kind of change it over. So we're married now for, man, Preston was a baby, so he was probably about a year, and I started smoking crystal meth to get off of the opiates. So, and that, he's 12 now, so that's how long ago that started. And I found a new solution, right? Because the whole part of addiction is finding a solution, what works. So my new solution was like, man, I found this drug where it's way cheaper. I can go to work. I'm super functional, right? I was able to go to work, hold the job down. And then there was pockets where I stopped. That stops happening, right? Where you kind of hit some roads. Me and Rachel our relationship was really rocky. If it wasn't for Pastor Shoemake, we probably would be divorced and his counsel, right? So praise God for having a pastor that just kind of can see beyond the situation, can see, he can speak into life and see the future. But so that happened where she would kick me out, I would leave, and I figured I was just caught up. Like, I'm like, man, I'm doing meth, and I never thought I would do meth. I had uncles that are crazy. A couple of them passed already from drug abuse. My father died about 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. 5 years ago now from drug abuse. But so I'm just caught up. I'm like, I don't want, like, who wants to be addicted to crystal meth? Like, it's not, like, it wasn't, like, it wasn't something that I chose, but I figured, like, I seen what it leads to, and I'm like, I just got to figure out how to live life with this problem. I just got to figure out. So my solution was, I found crystal meth. I just got to be able to hide it really good from my wife, and everything will be okay, right? I can still have a job. I can still work. And then my addiction got worse and worse to where the fights were happening more often. But I didn't really, at a point where I was just numb. Like, she's like, oh, I'm not leaving this. I'm like, I don't really, like, all right, it's more free time where I can just go figure. I don't have to worry about hiding it no more. But I never admitted it. I never admitted that I was, like, she caught me red-handed with a pipe, and I'd be like, that's somebody, or that's an old one from the last time. Like, I just didn't throw it away. Like, I had a million excuses, and I never would admit it that I was an addict. Because once I admitted it, I knew I had to face my problem. And that was one of the biggest shames to have is being open, and saying that, hey, yeah, I'm addicted to Chris. And she would, like, there was tons of times, I think even in the hospital room, in the baby bag, she found a big old bag of it, like, what? I'm like, that's not mine. Don't throw that away because I didn't pay for it. You know what I mean? I need to make the money back for it.
I flush it down the toilet.
And she still flushed it down the toilet. But so so my addiction got to the point where I started feeling symptoms that my dad felt. I'm kind of going a little ahead of myself. So we moved out to Roseville for like really no reason. I think it was just, we were looking for a house out here. We were trying to start over. We lived down the street over here off Martinville. And it was just, COVID had happened. That's pretty much what it was, right? COVID happened, we're living super deep with her parents and all four of us, we didn't have Brayden at the time. So we're living in like a shoebox and there's so many of us who have to work from home. And we started looking for houses out here and literally like every offer we put in was rejected. And then we finally looked out for something out by Roseville. And I mean, right now there's a reason for it, but at the time it was just super random. We didn't know anybody out in Roseville. We're far away from all of our family, far away from Rachel's home church. But sure enough, we got the house. So I was working remote, so for me it was perfect, because I lived in Roseville, but my office was in Santa Clara, so I could lie to her and be like, I can go get my drugs, I can do all this, I have to go to the office. Like I found out a new solution for my problem, how to lie. But I started getting health, my health was taking a toll on me. Like I'd wake up with these like Charlie horses and crazy pains in my body, the ones that my dad described to me before he passed. He died of pretty much of heart failure. He had a pacemaker in his heart. He just could not quit. So that's how my father passed away. So I'm getting these symptoms, and I'm sitting there, Rachel would be dead asleep, and I'm like, just ride this out, and if I could just get up and use again, it would go away. It got so bad to where I was like, man, I'm just gonna I didn't want to admit my problem so bad that I'd rather just die. And it was just like, I don't know of any other solution. There's like no other way I didn't know anyone that ever recovered or got sober before in my life. So I'm like I messed up. I'm gonna be like two of my uncles that passed, or like my dad. I'm in this part now. And granted, my addiction, it was fun in the beginning. Like I had a lot of money. We would do a bunch of stuff. Like when I met Rachel, it was never an issue to go get her. But I came down to the point where I would do anything to get my drugs. There would be times where you go into the darkest places. And I left a lot of this out of my testimony, but I would be in the Tenderloins in San Francisco looking for whatever I could find, because my connections out here didn't have something. I'd be in Oakland, in places I would never imagine going, places with people I've never seen. So that desperation was there. If I would do anything to get there, but I realized I could pretty much I was at the end of my rope. These pains wouldn't go away. Charlie horses were so crazy. So she's like, hey, why don't we check out this program? We're in Roseville now. Save and Sober's going on. I'm like, what is that? Why would I go to that? Still super denial. She's like, well, I'm just gonna go check it out, because she had a friend out there that was struggling, and she wanted to go check it out for her, she said. So I go with her. To the Save and Sober, and I run into Jake. Right, a lot of people know Jake, and I start hearing some stuff where people actually get sober. And I heard that message, and at the time I'm like, all right, I went, and then we left, and I'm like, man, that's pretty good. And I for the first time I realized I got to be honest about my problem. And then I still wasn't ready to. I was ready to give up. I just didn't know how to approach it. So finally, another night I have another episode where I'm just like, I ran out of what I needed. I was planning. I told her I had to go to the office the next day. I was going to run to Santa Clara, go do my whole little circle of it. And I finally just was like, God, please, I don't want to do this any longer. What can I do? I'll do any. I was in that moment again, when I was in high school. If you get me out of this one again, God, I'll serve you, and I'll be loyal, and I'll do everything I need to do. And then for the first time, I just woke up raging. I'm like, I lied. I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I'm going out to San Jose to get drugs. I'm addicted to meth, and I can't stop. And that was the first time I'd ever been honest, pretty much in our marriage, about what I was doing. And I was, on the floor bawling, crying, I'd rather just end my life right now than, I just can't do it. I don't have the energy to do this run anymore. To go out there, go looking for it, figure out how I'm going to pay for it. I was just at that point where I was just and then it crossed, when you're in your addiction and you figure out there's no other way, you have no money, then I'd rather just not be here. That's a solution too, right? So you're just looking for different solutions in your life. But it was so crazy, just admitting it. And that's the first step, admitting you have a problem. And it sounds really trivial, it's not a big deal, right? Because you have in your head, you have a problem, but until you admit it and you're honest with somebody, it doesn't really affect you. So I told that to Rachel. I go back to Save and Sober, and I'm getting sick, and I'm trying to shake this off, and I'm like, all right, well, I just got a problem with meth. Like, I'm gonna start smoking and drinking again. Like, I told you I have to. So, are you cool with that? And she's like, well, as long as you're not doing that, you can do this. And so I'm smoking and I'm drinking, and I'm going to Save and Sober. And I'm like, oh, I'm not doing meth anymore, but I'm smoking every day. I had a secret credit card. I ran up over a couple grand just getting pens delivered to the house. I'm like, man, I had stopped smoking. I didn't realize you can have deliveries come right to the house. So I'm like, I found my new thing. She's cool with it. I'm not smoking meth. I'm like, I'm back to the cool stuff. I'm just drinking. And then I realized, like, when I'd run out of drink, I'd go into the cupboards and start pounding the cooking wine. Or I had bottles hidden up in the garage. So then I go and I go back to Save and Sober. I talk to Jake and I tell him what my problem is, and that's for the second time I admit to somebody that I have a problem with meth. And I tell the whole room, kind of, and I would just open about it. And the more I share about it, the more easier it got, and like that release, like that victory, like, I had a victory over my addiction. And then I stopped doing that. We went on a vacation, and then I realized, like, on that vacation, I just drank. I was not sober one day that whole time for like a whole weekend where we went. And when we got back, I'm like, man, I just traded one addiction for the next. What am I doing? Like, I haven't been sober since I was 12, but for 2 years in between when I got in trouble, when I got 2 different cases. So I'm like, I just can't figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I can't do it. Like, I'm trying to go to Save and Sober. I'm trying to do this. So I stopped drinking. I went to Save and Sober. I'm like, I'm going to go to church. I prayed through. I started going to church, started going to Save and Sober. And then I had like 6 months where I was just, they call it the pink cloud. Like, I'm like, somehow God just gave me that relief. For 6 months, I'm good. And we come back to San Jose, I go right here to the Southside Cafe, meet my old connection, get a pipe, and I'm high again. And I'm like, man, like this, it's just not gonna work for me. Like, I've tried everything, and I kind of like, I was like, I'm gonna try everything just to prove that nothing works, so I can just be in my addiction, and this is it. Most of my family, right? I'm gonna prove, like, that's it. So that next day, I go to a meeting, and I say, I'm back. We had an online meeting back in the day, and I'm looking to get that going again, so hopefully we can get another Zoom meeting for Save and Sober on Saturday mornings. So I log back in on Saturday morning, and I tell them I got 1 day. And I couldn't even, I'm just bawling. I'm like, I got 1 day. Like, I used again, and everyone on the meeting's like, whoa, like, what, like, and I relapsed. And then they start clapping. And I call my pastor, and I'm like, man, I messed up. He's like, well, praise God, get back up, come. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I thought everyone was gonna be mad at me, like, yeah, like, I thought everyone was gonna judge me. And at the time, one of my good friends now, he's my sponsor. That day, I was supposed to watch his kids. So I'm like, oh, he's not gonna bring his kids, because I've always, when I was in my addiction, like, Rachel's brother, like, I couldn't even be around my nephew. They wouldn't leave me around with nobody. Nobody trusted me with your kids. You know what I mean? Not that I was a bad guy, they just knew I had an addiction. So when my sponsor still dropped off his kids, I'm like, oh, this guy's crazy, you know what I mean? But he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He saw something like he has. And so I meet with him, and I start, like, I'm like, man, I'm serious about it. You're dead serious? Then start working the program. So I got a sponsor. After that, I relapsed. I got a sponsor, who's my sponsor now is Anthony, and I started working the steps. And a funny story is when we sat down, he's like, so what's your sobriety day? And I told him my sobriety day, and I'm like, well, I'm down to do this, but I just got a problem with meth. I can still, like, drink a little, like, once in a while, I don't think I have that problem. He's like, well, if you want to do this, you got to be totally sober from everything. So I put my date down, and since then I've had 4 years. And it was just 1 day at a time. Like, but to get what I did to get sober, I did. And these, like, if you read the big book, like, it doesn't necessarily say you have to do certain things. A lot of it is suggestions. But for me, how am I on time?
You're doing good.
Okay. For me, it was 90 meetings in 90 days. So I had to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I used church as my meeting, so I would go, Sunday to church, Monday to Saved and Sober, Tuesday meeting, Wednesday church, meeting, church. So I just was, for 90 days I was there. I did the steps as fast as I could. And then I started working with others. So I have someone right behind me that has 3 years. I have a couple of sponsees that are still doing the steps. And it's funny because when you're helping other people, they're actually helping you. Like everyone in this room is helping me stay sober, right? Knowing I had to show up when I got this booked out, like I got to be sober until I get here so I can share my story. Now I got to be sober until next Monday so I can share my story again. Like these little things help you stay sober. You got people depending on me. And I had a question early on in my sobriety, like, well, what do I do with my sponsees when I relapse? You just don't relapse. You just take it one day at a time. So that's my journey of like how I recovered. And then so it's been, like I said, it's been 4 years. Thank you very much. And I think God's like, so my prayer now, so after I got sober, I'm doing my program. Now I'm the youth pastor at our church. Like God like restores you so fast, right? We started our own business now. I'm doing things now that God puts you in a place now like as if I was never an addict. Like my life has changed so dramatically now to where I'm at now. It's just, He expedites your growth. It's just amazing. And all it is being honest and open. Like our relationship has never been better. I'm present for my kids. I got more sobriety than my youngest, at least. The other two got me beat, but I hope I never catch up to them. They never catch up, right? So that's just being able to be present for them. And then through that journey, when I got sober, I'll share this like my current journey now, what I'm up to. So you never stop growing spiritually, your prayer life and living for God. But when I got sober, I put on a gang away. Like I found a new addiction. So I got sober, and a lot of people were like, well, be graceful with yourself. You're not smoking anymore, you're obviously not doing meth. So I got my new addiction was eating. So I'm like, dang, man, I got sober, and now I'm like I'm just eating heavily now, and I'm working with a sponsee. This is just back early in September. I'm working with a sponsee. I was praying for God, like, man, help me. I'm trying all these different diets. I'm like, man, I need to figure this out. I'm working out, gaining weight while I'm working out, eating no carbs, and I'm like, man, this is crazy, right? So I'm praying to God. I'm like, man, I can't do this. I go to take my family to the Great Wolf Lodge. They're like, no, you can't get on this slide, man. We go to Great America. They're like, you can't get on that. I'm like, this is great. Like, I've traded one addiction to the next, right? And especially being in church, like we celebrate with food. And we have a lot of good church in Roseville, so we always eat after service, and we were eating out after service. Like it's just, that's just part of the culture. And so I'm working with a sponsee, and we're going through the program. We're going through the steps, and he's talking about like these obsessions he has with food. This guy's half my size, right? And he's like, man, I've been doing this, and I'm like, there's a program for food addicts, right? Like for food addicts in recovery. And he's like, oh, let me check that out. And he's probably thinking like, do you know there's a program for food addicts? Right? So he goes out before me. He starts and he checks it out and he sends me some links. I don't think so. Now I'm sharing all that to say like I found like my whole life. I realize now, like, I just have a compulsion to hide behind something. So I found out, like, I guess I'm allergic. They say in this new program, you're allergic to all white powders, even sugar and flour. So, like, I'm in this new program now, and I'm taking control of my life. But it's careful, like, so be careful. Don't be careful what you pray for, but God will answer your prayers, and it's not going to be the easy way. Like, I was hoping just to wake up one day and shit. You know what I mean? Like, that was my prayer. But that ain't gonna, you have to put in the work, right? So I'm sharing that to say, like, God will help you find your way, but it's gonna be slow. Like, if He told me this whole process, like, hey, after you get sober, you're gonna get in this next program, you're gonna do, I would have never done that journey. But you just gotta trust God and take it one day at a time and not look down the road. So my program today is a lot different than it was getting sober, like the 90 meetings in 90 days. Now I have a new program. I have another sponsor that I work with. And it's rigorous, but it's. I think God is putting me in this new place for a reason. One, He's answering my prayers. Two, I don't have high blood pressure anymore. There's a lot of stuff that God's given me back through this new program, and then I'm able to share this information with others and just kind of do that 12 step. The 12 step is working with others, giving back what God has given us for free, giving us our sanity back. So today what I'm doing, like my program, you know, I work during the day obviously and do all that, but my nights are, they say you should, in the big book, it says you should spend most of your free time helping others and being involved, like, you know, giving back. So most of my free time, Rachel can attest to it, is working with other people and helping back and going to meetings, meeting with my sponsor, meeting with my sponsees. So pretty much like Monday nights is Saved and Sober at our church. Tuesday nights I go to a food meeting. Wednesdays we have church. Every Thursday we do our small groups. Every other Friday we have the youth. And then Saturday mornings I go to another meeting, work my sponsor, and back to Sunday at church. So that's my program to stay sober, and now to stay on this, my new program. But does everyone need to do that? I mean, just if you're an addict like me, probably. And it's not like sometimes I'm like, dang man, I had to sign up for this other meeting now, this other program where I was taking more time. But like I used to use every day.
Right.
I used to use multiple times every day. I would spend so much more time using. And one of the things I struggled with was coming back was because I'll just share kind of my relationship with God, because this is a faith-based program. And a lot of times if you're just coming into the program and getting sober, that's very important. And you can have any higher power you want, right? They say that you can have any, just to get into the program, you can have any higher power than you want. But why not choose the highest power, right? But, and for me, it was hard because I'm like, man, like, you know, you read stories in the Bible and you have, like, there's nobody lived in a whale, that's crazy. Or like, you know, like you also believe in Santa Claus. Like I had all these negative connotations towards God. But now, if somebody asks me how I know God is real, it's like what he's done in my life, nobody else could have done it.
Amen.
I've never seen anyone else. So I chose to have, you know, why not, if you have access to the highest power, why not have the highest power? And the joke that we always say is like, you can choose any power, you can choose the doorknob, but be careful because it'll turn on you. Like, you know, people have weird different ideas of their higher power. I think in the program, you will find, like, if you're looking for the highest power, God will show up for you. And it's hard to submit. It's hard to submit to somebody, especially being a man. It was hard for me to submit to somebody. But when I realized I was submitting to a crack pipe, I'm like, I'm submitting to something already. Why not submit to something? So my new solution is God, is my higher power, and that's what keeps me. That's what keeps me going. And that's where I'll end my share for the night. I appreciate everybody.